Hello everyone, we're going live right now and I want to welcome everyone who's already in the chat. Say hello. This is part 2 of my steel roller 45 build. We started that build last Friday. I think it was 3 hours and 20 minutes, not including the interview that we had with Andrea Martini from Robot Factory. And yeah, we didn't finish because it was quite some extensive build time that we had. And today the target is to finish it, but I'm gonna set myself a time limit anyway, so don't wanna do that long as last time. So let's see if we can do it in 3 hours. So I'm not sure. Let's see. And let's also have a look who's also in the chat. I see Slayer is there. Tutum Carmen is there, Cord Wolfie is there, who else is there? Robert, hello, 3D Medic, Vince is there, Stroker, yeah, say hello, and also, like, who is new here, tell us where you're coming from. It's always different, I guess, every time we have different people coming, and I'm really curious where you are coming from. And before we start, I'll probably give it a minute or so for everyone to gather and come into the live stream. And then we'll kick it off. I'm gonna quickly recap what we've done so far, so everyone is on the same page. What are we doing here and why? And then we can continue in the process of building this. So I also hope that the connection is good, that we don't have any problems with the audio and also not with some frame dropping. So yeah, just tell me if quality is good for you. I see people from Canada are here, United States. So let's do a quick recap what we've done last time. So for anyone who doesn't know, the Steel Roller 45, it is an upgrade kit for an Ender printer. So Ender 3 Pro, Ender 3 V2, there's different versions of that upgrade kit. And this specific one is for the Ender 3 Pro. So I've taken Ender 3 Pro last time. I did a little bit of preparation work though, because building the base for the steel roller took around another 2.5 hours, including getting the Kapton tape on the steel roller, and then we started basically disassembling the Ender 3 Pro, getting all the individual parts disassembled. So the electronics, display, the Z-axis frame, that is basically what you see here. And then we started applying that these Ender 3 parts to the steel roller using 45 degrees angle brackets that are here on the side of this frame. And then we started reattaching the power supply, the display and the electronics case. So we can also have a look from the top to see how that is currently looking. So that's how it looks. So here's already the electronics box. On the other hand, we have the display, power supply, and here is still the old Z-axis and the extruder here. So this is something that we need to change in a bit. This extruder needs to be angled by 90 degrees forward, so we can print endlessly. So because this is currently in the original downwards facing position, and that won't work. So it needs to be angling, pointing forwards in terms of pointing 90 degree in this direction. So I would say we should start and have a look at where we actually have to continue in the manual. We had Andrea Martini last time helping us in terms of giving some hints in the beginning. He also talked about the kit, So if anyone is curious, the kit for the Ender 3 Pro for the steel rotor 45 degree, that is around 470 euros, I think he said. And there's also a vertical version which isn't angled, so it prints like it would be a normal printer, but then it ejects the print to the side, which could be also a use case. Like if you're just printing something that is in the boundaries of a normal Ender printer, like 200 by 200 of size, then the vertical version, which is about 400 euro, would also be an option, and probably less complicated in terms of how the software works, because it's just a normal printer that has this endless steel rotor, and you can do serious production, but you cannot print like these really long parts, which is probably something that not everyone will do anyway. So I think it's a valid option to think about. Like what do you really want to do? Is like, do you want to print swords for cosplay, or you want to just do serious production of little things? Then probably the vertical version would be something that is actually easier to use. But we have the 45 degree version, and on something else that you need to know, that printing on this printer requires some software modifications also. It's not the hardware that is changed, but it's also that we have a different firmware now on the main board that has been adapted to the new setup. It's coming from robotfactory, but it's actually a Marlin firmware, and there is also in the manual there is mentioned how you need to change Marlin firmware if you want to do it yourself. So there's a few configuration items that you need to change. And then to print something on this printer, you need a software that can that's basically working to generate G-code for the 45 degrees. And Andrea, he provided a software on the USB stick that takes the normal output of a software and then converts it to 45 degrees. And you can also modify your print in terms of, you can say later, when you slice the G-code, how many items you want to print. Like you want to print it 10 times, and you can do that in his software later. So you don't, like you can basically use a normal software for that. But you can also use something that is already suited for 45 degrees printing. Yeah, 1000 benchies. I have another project in mind, actually, what we could print. I'm not telling you today, but you will see it. You can probably guess from what I'm doing in a few weeks or so. I have some ideas. Yeah, thank you. Everyone smash the like button if you're here, if you're enjoying this so far. If you want to help me pushing this video out to more people, then please do it. Smash the like button. That's also super helpful all the time. We have people coming from the Netherlands, and we have Yaroslav from Russia. Hello. And yeah, Igor, probably from Italy. And yeah, maybe at some point, I don't know exactly, Andrea Martini, he said he's probably going to join the stream tonight, maybe to answer some questions. I don't know if he's already here, but I'm gonna check if he's coming or if he is coming later. But it would be super awesome if we have him here. So I can't tell you when, but yeah, let's so far have a look what we have to do from here on. I'm gonna briefly give you an overview what's coming now in terms of the steps in the manual. By the way, the manual, I think it's super detailed. It has 87 pages, so quite impressive in terms of how much in detail it goes. There's so many pictures. Everything is described super in detail. And we were stopping at a point where I was just applying the power supply, and I did stop here. And actually I realized that applying the motor cable here, which is this arrow here, this is super hard actually. So I will give this feedback to Andrea, because when you already have mounted this 45 degree bracket, it is really super hard to get this cable in here, because it's not a very yeah, it's a very tiny spot, and you have to actually insert the cable from the inside of the printer, and it's like I can't do it So I've moved the frame forward again and then inserted the cable and then moved the frame backwards. So it could be in the manual just a little bit early before you can do this frame assembly. Makes it easier. And so what we do next is connecting these cables. So let's have a look from the top. So yeah, here, this is the new Z-axis. Basically, that's moving the roller back and forth. And then we'll have the other cables connected. So this is the Y-axis motor cable. That is connected. Here we have a switch, which we also have a little cable for, hopefully. Yeah, Y-axis cable. Let me check. Yeah, so this little switch here, it's now in a different position. So it's not in the original position where it was on the Ender 3. And on the Ender 3 it was actually on the outside of this frame. Now it's on the inside. There's also a new part up here, which is a little metal plate that is used to push on the switch, because there's nothing here on this construction here that's going to push the switch otherwise. So there's a little bracket that's standing out now, and we'll probably have to adjust the switch distance later for having the right pressure. And do we have Andrea in the chat? I don't know. Is he there? Probably not yet. Oh, here it is. Robot Factory. Welcome. Happy to have you here. Thanks for coming, Andrea. Happy to have you here. So we're just starting on the manual page 70, actually, if you're interested. Page 70. So 17 pages to go. It shouldn't be, hopefully not hard to complete now. And so we're connecting the switches now. And yeah, what cables are going to be connected now? It's pretty clear. It's going to be the rest of the electronics cables, power cables here on the side. Let's have a close look what's to be done. Probably not too easy to see it here, but this is the thing that I'm doing right now. I'm connecting the cables back to the electronics. So starting with this power cable here, and then we'll continue with the rest of the connectors. Maybe you can, if you want, you can ask some questions about the kit to Andrea, because he's here, so he's probably happy to answer some of your questions. And if you want to ask me something, then just go ahead and post it in the chat. So power is connected to the main board. Next cable is the one that's coming from the steel rotor motor. That is this one here. That should be the new Z-axis cable. That connector is here on the main board. That's the third one. Then we have the Y-axis. That's the second one. And then here, I mean, you know that probably if you've ever assembled or disassembled an Ender 3, probably not so super complicated for you. So there's these cables coming from like the Y-axis coming down. So these are the rest of the cables. Basically, extruder motor. This is the fourth stepper motor cable. So these coming from the top here, from the original frame. And then last but not least here, this cable has the X end stop switch. This is also located on the main board. The good thing about the main board here is that every connector is labeled. So we can't really confuse this stuff. And then I'm just going to connect everything as it was originally. So I went and actually I've taken little labels here. I have a little label printer and I'm marking my cables usually to remember which cable was for what purpose. And then I can just reconnect everything as it was. Okay. So, Tutankhamun, he has a question. I want to know if there will be a kit for the ANIT A8. Actually, we've talked about it last time. I also got an email from Andrea. He explained to me, basically, you can order one of the kits and then you can adapt this to your printer. However, probably the ANIT A8, I'm not sure if you're talking about the acrylic frame, because I think that doesn't work. What could work is maybe using an AM8 frame, so the metal frame that I have also built my ANIT A8 into. That could be working, because then you have basically the extrusion system, the rail system that takes the T-nuts, and then where you can fix the kind of things that are coming with the kit, so the brackets. But the acrylic frame, from my point of view, the acrylic frame of the ANIT A8 is useless for this kind of setup. It's not stable. It's not compatible with these kinds of attachments. So I would say, yeah, just maybe start building something like an AM8 base frame, just like the carriage for the Z-axis or the Y-axis, and then you could probably adapt this kit to something like the ANIT A8, but probably a little more complicated, and you will probably also have to print some custom adapter parts. Yeah, Andrea has an answer to that. And he says, yeah, the kit is for the Ender series, and it's also possible to mount it to other printers. But yeah, it's probably a question of, like, does it really fit on the frame? Is it really the same dimensions? Do you need to have any adapters in terms of spacing the frame in? Or yeah, is it wider? Is it more narrow? Actually, where this part is attached to, so it's gonna be a little complicated, I guess. If you have no experience in designing your own parts, it's probably the point where you need to do that, or use some washers. I don't know, actually. Good. I'll just continue so we don't lose more time. Still have quite some cables to do here to connect. So what is next? Let me just double check my cables here that I don't misconfuse anything. So we have one fan connection here, which is connected like this. So minus goes to the right side. Evart 1985 has a question, how much is this kit? Maybe Andrea, you can take the question in the chat. If I'm not wrong, it's 470 euro. but it's not coming with the printer, so it's just the kit alone. So here we go with the connection for the nozzles. So the heating cartridge for the hot end, that is this connection here. So what's left here? This is the hot end for the sensor. So the sensor cable for the hot end is the most right connector here. Next is the heated bed power cables. Actually, it doesn't matter in which, like, there's no plus and minus actually, although it looks like, but it doesn't really matter in which direction you connect those. We're just gonna insert them here. And we have a sensor cable. So we're missing some cable here from the Z and the Y end stops. This looks a little bit short, so we can put it in here from the inside, hopefully. Good. One thing about these mainboards is that that's a little bit of a disadvantage of using the original Creality mainboards here. If you're using those, you need to make sure that the cooling is good, because like especially the older versions, the 422 and also the one, I think it was the 115 mainboard, these Creality boards, they really need to be good, cooled very well, because otherwise the stepper motors can burn through. I had this happen to me with another mainboard, the SKR Mini. That is also quite sensitive to too much temperature. So really you really need to make sure that like you don't block these cooling blocks, so they get some air from the top, and the cooling of the electronics case is also not best. So this is a little bit of a construction problem, I would say, from Creality side. They didn't put a lot of effort into the cooling system here. It's just a small fan, and that is usually if you're not in the basement like I am, so if you're like in a hot room where you get some temperature, then yeah, it's going to be some issues. So you might be wondering why we are not using the Z end stop switch, and yeah, that is simply because we don't have one anymore. Okay, that's because we have the steel LoRa, and it's endless, so there is no end stop. Then Kurt, thank you for pointing out. I'm gonna put our Discord chat link here in our chat. Just a quick. Let me briefly get this link. And we're gonna post it in the chat. So give me a second. Discord. Sometimes I really don't like how this invitation works. Okay, now it works. Good. So this is the Discord link. We have a little community there. There is a few hundred people in that Discord server. We have a lot of great moderators. Actually, we have most of them here tonight. So Tutum Carmen is a moderator. Slayer is a moderator. Court Wolf is a moderator. And I also saw... I think that's all for tonight. Great people. Super helpful, because you can probably imagine that this cannot be done by a person alone, and they are answering so many questions, like it's shameful for myself. So that is a great community. So we have a lot of different channels for different questions about different printers or different software that you might be using, and then people are super helpful, chatting with each other and answering questions. So if you want, then if you have a question that doesn't have to do with today's stream, then you can also go there and chat with others about your topics, and then hopefully get some help. That's what's so great about the community, that people help out if they have some knowledge. Good. So I guess from the electronic side, just double checking that I have connected everything that has to be connected. So power cables are in, heated cables, hot end cables, sensors, temperature sensors, especially the end stop switches that we have left, and fans, and display. I think we're done so far with this part. The next step in the manual seems to be, connected the cables, cable checklist, connections. I think that's good. So, fan connectors. I'm not sure what this is actually about. That is actually a good question. Maybe it's not for me. Maybe not for this printer in specific. I get the idea, though. I don't have that issue. I've got my fan already connected directly to power, so I don't need this adapter. Good. Then we'll do the cover. That's good. Closing this electronics box. And the idea of this cable is that this motor here is permanently running. The problem is that these connectors here are so thick that it's really hard to make it work. I will just risk it and use the original one. So we'll take this cover and put it here on top. And then we can close the case. Yeah, I've seen, Andrea, I've seen the cable. I know what this is about. It's about having this running permanently. What I will do anyways, I will replace this fan very soon with another one, which is going to be a complete new cover. Also because I don't like the fact that this is actually open here. So I mean it works, but like from the looks, I don't really like it so much. So I will print a new cover for I think an 80 or 90 millimeter fan that is much bigger, and it has better cooling. So let's just close this. So there's 3 screws here at the top, one which you can't see at the moment, and then there's like this one, and there's one on the left hand side. Okay. Don't know. I think this maybe this is and either this is too long, or we need some tool to fix it. Let me check. This might work. Not sure. Yeah, Andreas says he wants me to change this cable to directly to power. Maybe this. I mean, we can do it. If you think this is better, then yeah, let's do that. If you think it's really much better, so. There's another one that is probably for the bottom then. So, unfortunately, this little screw is stuck here. For whatever reason, I don't know. Probably because it's a little bit too long. So let me get some gripper so we can fix that. Don't have one here, seems. Yeah, let's try this. Good, so the idea that Andrea had, I kind of get why he wants to do that. There is this connection here where the power comes in, and he is like he put some cable in the box, and here it is, and he wants us to connect this adapter cable directly to power, so the fan is always running. So let's do that. Let's do that quickly. He's insisting to do that. Okay. Let's probably need to open it a bit more. Yeah, there's not much space left here in these connections, but probably we'll manage to get both cables in. So you can't see that, but getting this cable in here and the other cable at the same time, it's pretty tight. But yeah, it's working. Just don't want to break off this terminal. Second cable coming. Is it fitting in? Yeah, it seems so. Okay, so now we have this little adapter cable, and then we can connect the fan off the electronics cover, which is nice. Nice idea. And then let's wire up. Let's just zip everything together. So this is also done right now. Okay. So, yeah, that's, I mean, it's not perfect in terms of how the case closes everything. So I would actually prefer to print another case cover that has some slot here on the side for the cables, and then covers everything up, having a bigger fan. Yeah, something like 80, 90 millimeters. That is also more silent. And it's cooling much better. So there's a small screw here. Thanks for the hint. Okay, so cover of the box is done. I think can clean up the table just a bit. What's left? These covers for extrusions. Looks good. Okay. So let's see what we have to do next. I think I need this bracket later. Yeah. Let's check what's in the manual next. So this case is closed now. And all the cables are connected, so I guess we can check what's next in the manual. We're securing these cables. That looks okay so far. And yeah, now we're doing the extruder update, which means that this part here will basically change that to another angle. Hope you can see this. Let me just check it out. Okay, so here we go. This is the extruder. I'm gonna take the extruder cover off, and yeah, it's hard to see, to be honest. Can't get it in a better way for you. So here maybe. So I will take this off now, and then we'll have a bracket, which is where is it here? So this bracket here, this is new, and this bracket is gonna hold our hot end in a different angle. So it's like gonna be 90 degrees angled. So it's pointing forward. That's the next thing to do. So we'll remove the cover. Need a smaller hex driver for that. And I have a question actually to Andrea, if he can answer that. Yeah, sorry, I think I had the PDF view open quite some time, so it wasn't probably showing me doing the stuff, but I think if you ever the electronics connections of an Ender 3, that wouldn't be a big surprise. Okay, so see that cover is coming off. Let's try to show it from the top if it's possible. It's not easy. So this is now released. So what I can do next is take the extruder part off, and then we can attach that bracket. So the extruder is also held in place by another 2 screws. Let me see if we can get it a little bit closer here from that point of view. Let's check it out. Okay, where is it? Here it is. And we need a little bit more light. Here we go. I guess we can work with that. Okay, so you see I've released this cover that's holding both fans. Next is to get the hot end off. It's another 2 bolts here. And what is happening here? Okay. I hope you can see everything that I'm doing now. So, next. Okay, so we'll release this wheel here. Let's see if that works. So we can completely remove this bracket, and I'll probably have to get some tool to the other side so it doesn't move. So it's probably not enough. So we need to completely take that off. I think that's what's necessary. So can it already be taken off? Not yet. Also removing the belts. Unhook the belts and probably, yeah, now it's off. Okay, so this part will be modified now. That's going to be the new bracket. So let's see how this looks in the end. So this is the new part. So everything needs to be transferred over. So all these wheels are going to be on the new part. This seems to be a lock nut. So you should print the hex key handle I posted in the Discord channel. So what do you mean? Maybe I missed that. Shame on me. Okay, so that's one thing. Number 2 is also coming off. And Andrea just answered another question. And about what printer is this kit also working with? I guess, yeah, the answer is it's going to work with other printers. And it seems to be that it's not an issue with this printer that Andrew mentioned. Good, next step here. And the last one, disassembling this one as well. Come on. I wish I had this handle now. It's really probably would make my life easier now. Okay, so number 3. Okay, so I guess we don't need this bracket anymore. Okay, place the new support on the previously removed one. Oh yeah, we need it. I know why. It's because this one doesn't have it doesn't have actually attachments for the belts, so it's just like it's basically an adapter plate that fits behind or in front of the old one. And yeah, and now we're gonna reinsert all the wheels again. Interesting, very interesting. Or is it behind? How is it located? No, it's good. It's good. Yeah, Daniel, next time it's better to get some better wrenches. Yeah, I see. Totally agree. Preparation is everything. So I'm just curious if I'm doing something wrong here, just double checking, because that is actually from the picture. It's a bit dark to see what is in which direction. So I guess, yeah, this is the direction to go. Yeah, now I think I've got it right. Okay, so reinserting everything as it was before. The wheels. We're getting there. So I feel it. Today we're building this. We're finishing it. Okay, so last one here. So this is looking quite good already. You see? The adapter plate is now like basically attached behind the original plate that holds the wheels, and Here we have the belt attachments, and yeah, I'm just fixing the screws again from the wheels, and then we can reattach this whole plate through the upper frame. One more to go. Okay, looking good. Yeah, probably let's leave this one a little bit loose now so I can like slide it over. Yeah, at least loose enough that it can easily go over. So let's try how it goes. And I'll switch to this camera so you can see it from here. So I'm trying to get this part over the rail again. So therefore I have to make it a little bit flexible, and now we can reattach it. Yeah, and not let it slip through your hands, of course. I'm destroying the printer already. It's already happening. I don't actually need the hammer that you're always mentioning. I can do it on my own. I don't need a hammer to slam it. Come on. It's not easy. The thing is, if you try to get this through, this screw here into this opening when it's already attached, it's not easy. Now we should be good. It's drop tested, yeah. It's drop tested. Oh man. So, but one thing that's probably getting a problem right now, if this eccentric nut is in the wrong position, like it's maybe too tight now, or then it's also hard to get it attached. So we probably need to turn it so it's not pushing too much. Okay, this looks much better. Okay. So now let's get it fixed. So this is now wobbling around. That's the eccentric nut. Could fix this. Yeah, maybe I did it a little bit too tight here. Tiny bit too much pressure. And this looks good. Looks good to me. Stop wobbling around. And now we can fix the hot and back in its place. So here it comes. And coming from the back side, actually. And then we can fix it back into its old position. Here we go. So one is fixed. Number 2 is coming. Good. Let's tighten that up a bit. Cover back on. Yeah, you can see that's probably we'll see. I mean, probably have to take off this this cover here. Not probably this is not enough to bring the nozzle down. Yeah. Okay. So let's fix this fan cover. Oh, come on. It's not an easy spot here. Get the screws back in. Come on. It's not working. No, I think I've got it. What's happening? Thing is this, these screws are not gripping into the threads for some reason. I have to check what's happening. Either they are too short now, but they shouldn't be. They shouldn't be. It looks good. Maybe Andrea has an idea. Do we need longer screws for this? Well, actually, the manual says like tighten this back with the screws, and I would guess that the original screws should work fine. But maybe I'm just putting them in the wrong angle. It's really difficult for some reason. They don't want to go into this spot. What is happening here? This is really tough. On the other hand, it's also going to be very difficult to get this last one in. What I'm trying to do, let me see. I'll be back in a second and I will get some magnetic tool, hopefully to magnetize my tool here. So, on the way, I'll be back in a second. from the workshop. I can't take you with me, just on audio. So let's see, because this is such a bad spot to attach screws. Hopefully I can make this tool a little bit magnetized so screws don't fall. This really doesn't work so well. Maybe a bit more. Andrew also says the cover, removing and attaching that cover is really painful, and I agree. It's really hard. So let's give it one more try. But magnetizing this tool doesn't really work, so maybe another trick, we can use some tape. Let's try that. Hope that it works. And we'll just use a tiny bit of tape and then hopefully getting that screw in a position that works. Yeah, because this is such a tiny, narrow spot here behind this cover, it's really difficult to get anything fixed here. So maybe this works. Not really. This is really frustrating. Any tips? Any ideas to get this done? Hey, I think I've got the screw in. I think it's working. Okay, success, at least on the first one. Yeah. Get my tape back. Okay. So, using tape in such a narrow spot, that works. Actually, it wasn't my idea. Andrea had this idea with the other screw that actually the nut that goes behind the y-axis motor, that's a very difficult spot to put a nut behind and to get it in a place where you can like screw in something from the front. It's actually a good idea and it works. So I'm stealing that idea now. And look, it works here as well. Magic. Okay, so we'll need to remove this cover here. Yeah, why? Let me show it to you. So it's necessary to remove this, to remove the silicone sock which was on here, because that nozzle tip that needs to touch the hotbed later, and it won't work if this is attached. So then you can see it's not possible that this goes down to like the very bottom of the surface here. Okay, let's reattach the belts. This looks fine. cover is positioned, belts are fixed. The belt is, like, from a tensioning point of view, looks good. I wouldn't actually tighten that more. And now we should be going down with the nozzle to the bottom. Let's see if I can show this to you. Bringing the camera down. Here we go. So it's now time to bring the nozzle down to the surface. And I'm doing this by turning the Y-axis or the Z-axis lead screw, and you see now, okay, this is actually how much I can go down. There is still quite some space in between, so I'll release the screw that is holding actually the Z-axis end stop switch. So on the other side, there is this end stop switch that stops this from going further. So here is the last position that it goes down to. And you see, there's quite some space left. So what I'm going to do is a little bit releasing that screw here, bringing that a tiny bit further down the end stop switch, so we can actually bring down the nozzle a bit more. So let's see if we can touch the surface now. Not yet. So we need to come down even further. And now it looks like it's almost touching, like it's very close, and yeah, like it's just being blocked by a tiny bit of filament rest that's just left on the nozzle. But I think that's good from like, actually the motor is clicking right when it touches the bed, so I think that's actually good. And I would just leave it in that position for a second and continue reading what's next in the manual. Okay. Now it's close. And we'll do the next step in the manual, which is going to be height adjustment. So this is the tricky part. It also says it needs to be done with a lot of patience, and yeah, we'll probably have to do a little bit of testing. And what I'll do right now, because I want to do some cleaning of the nozzle, but it's like it's a little bit, there's a tiny rest of filament here. You can probably see it. I'll just bring it up a little bit, and I'm heating up the nozzle so we can clean that. And we never turned on the printer so far, so so it didn't blow up in my face yet. Yeah, let's see. I'm heating up the nozzle because I like to clean it first before we do the calibration, because there's tiny rests of filament on the tip, and that's going to prevent bringing it down as much as I would like to do that. Here is the rest. You can see it. It's this white bubble here. Okay, we have some more people coming in. Just double checking how much people are actually watching the stream right now. And maybe you can just write where you're coming from. If you're new to the stream, we are building the steel roller 45. which is a highly modified version of an Ender 3 Pro that it's angled 45 degrees for endless printing. We have 41 concurrent viewers at the moment. Yeah, that's good. Last time I think we had around 50 people at the same time watching, and now we have like around 40, so you people probably weren't coming back. So I'm just trying to get these filament rests off the nozzle tip. This looks good now. Yeah, it was a tiny bit of filament rest. There's a bit oozing out at the moment, so I will do a cool down now. So no more filament comes out. So I'll just try to keep that nozzle tip clean, so nothing is blocking us from going down. Because the nozzle tip has to be perfectly flat, so nozzle is also like, from how it's shaped, is also 45 degrees. So it's going to be like almost absolutely in line with the surface when we bring it down, and so far it has to be super clean, and it wasn't. But this looks good now. Okay, so let's turn off this noisy thing. Yeah, some people from Germany I see, Bavaria, Peter, also Ross from South Africa, Jacques Dupois from Heidelberg, Mauricio Ortega from probably Portugal or Spain, I don't know. So many people. Johannes. Guys, thanks for coming. So you see, we're pretty much almost done, and we're just in the calibration step. So I'm going back to this camera, showing you what we have to do here. So I'm bringing the nozzle down again to the surface, and I'm trying to get as close as possible so it touches the surface. And actually, the switch is like just triggering. It's almost perfect. Like, it's really down, and there's no difference, there's no gap, almost no gap, and then it's clicking. So maybe that is already good enough, at least for some testing. Yeah, Andrea is asking, so Robot Factory, Andrea joined us. He's the inventor of this kit. He is asking, did you update the firmware? Yes, I've updated this mainboard with your firmware. So we should be good from that point of view. And let's see what we did do next. So page 79 of the manual, I'm pretty much there. And the nozzle is just touching the belt when the switch is clicking. Okay, let's have a look what's next. When the correct zeroing is achieved, I've locked the switch, so it's pretty much doesn't move anymore. Align the x-axis nozzle to the belt. Yeah, let's see. Good point. So when we bring it down, we should check whether it's like any different on any side. I think that on this side is actually a little bit higher. Yeah. So distance should be distance of the nozzle from the belt for the correct adhesion of the wire must, however, be adjusted in the steel roller program offset Y. Align the x-axis to the belt. We recommend doing the alignment after applying a support with on the plane. Turn on the printer. So, what do you think, Andrea? Can we do page 81 now? That is when the switch is at least in the right position, it's fixed, it's clicking when the nozzle touches the belt. Okay, so putting it in the middle. Yeah, so the idea now is that we will align both sides. That distance here is the same as the distance here. That is actually a bit trickier, to be honest. So here we have, like, if it's coming down, like you can hear already, maybe you can hear it, that it's scratching a little bit the nozzle. And now what we need to make sure is that we go to both sides and check whether the distance is the same. And actually my impression is that the belt that needs a little bit more tension because it's not perfectly flat here in the middle. But there's also some attachment that is supposed to push this down. So my question would be to Andrea, why don't we attach the presser that's pressing down this sheet, because it's clearly not perfectly flat. Why don't we attach this wheel first and then do the adjustment? I'm just curious why it's the other way around, to be honest. Just gonna show this to you. There's a roller that's gonna press down. Basically, it's coming behind. So that is going to push down the surface, and then it's actually at the distance when it's much lower now, right? So I'm just wondering why we don't first attach this. Yeah. It would make sense to me. But of course, we can go to the side and check the distances. So here, on that side, distance is a little bit too high. But I'm curious. I probably have the same on the other side, yeah. So what we should do first is go down with this even further. So I'm going to bring down the nozzle even further in the corners, just to see like how much is this difference between both sides. So this looks good. Let's take this one side as a reference. Let's see how it's on the other side. And here there is much more distance. So it's like we now can decide, like this one is like, if it's on this side of the belt, it's pretty much down. And if it's on the other side, it's Yeah, probably a millimeter away. So we can fix that. We can fix that by bringing the structure down a bit. And just by moving this part a little bit further back or forward, I guess. Yeah, that's page 81. Where's this bigger hex driver now? Okay guys, just to tell you what I'm doing, so it doesn't get boring. I'm trying to adjust the pressure of the nozzle against the belt, and there you have to like check the middle, check on the side, and check on the other side, and that's what I'm doing right now. And I can see that it's different from, like, if I'm here at one side, it's here on that side, it's like probably a millimeter higher. So the manual says we need to shift it around a little bit, checking the distance here, so everything is still in place. Raise the structure of the lower part until the purpose is achieved. Yeah, so let's double check the angle on the other side. Let's raise it a bit up here on that side. And let's double check the angle. The problem is checking the angle is difficult on the side if you have the display attached. Yeah. And I still want to keep the right 45 degrees angle, but I can't insert this part. It's not easy. Probably want to remove this display a bit just to have a little bit more space to work. It's probably easier when the display is not attached. So we can put it down now, so now it can have a little bit more room here to work. So you see how this works. To get the right angle, we'll insert this helper sheet, which is 45 degrees. And then we can try to adjust this. It's probably not perfectly 45 degrees. Probably that is the issue. Let me double check. Everything is a bit loose here on the side. And now it looks better. And that was probably already the millimeter that was missing. Distance to the back, still good. Let me double check. No, that's fine, that's perfectly fine. Okay, so let's check again. Nozzle down. Okay, this looks much better now. So Andrea, double check now. Both sides are same distance from the back, and they are also 45 degrees. And now it looks much better because the nozzle here on that side is now pretty much at the same distance than on the other side. It's just in the middle, it's a little bit higher, the bed, because it's probably bulking up a bit. You have to raise the whole structure on the side. What? Maybe you can elaborate a bit what you mean. In the manual it says parallel, and we need to check that the nozzle is parallel. I checked that. I saw that it's on one side, it's a little bit further or too close. Correct angle. And then I can probably raise, what's raise the structure? It's probably this. Yeah, I think I get it. Just the side of the lower part, raising it. It's not always possible to lower. It could be resting on the base. So now it looks like, since I pulled it up just a tiny bit, it looks like it's now better, but we need to double check with the paper how much different it is now, if there is any difference. So I'm pretty much down here, I need to come down a little bit further, getting the switch just a tiny bit lower, checking again. Okay, so now here on this side the paper is now, yeah, we should go down just a tiny bit with the switch. Even more. Okay, so I would say this leaves a bit of room to play also with the Z offset, because like the clicking should happen a bit above the 0 position, so we have a little bit more room to play. So now the paper is like touching the paper in the nozzle. Let's go to this side. Is it the same? And seems so. I mean, this looks quite good. It could go down even a bit further. A little more pressure could, I mean, doesn't hurt. Okay, so now the paper is, this is a bit of resistance that I would like to see, just a tiny bit. So we have some room to play. So let's go to the other side. And let's just see if the resistance is about the same. Let me check. Problem is it shouldn't move in the meanwhile, so I need to make it fixed. Okay. This is like, this requires patience. I get it. Andrea is already, he mentioned that in the manual. I guess this is good. adjust the side of the lower part, raising it. It's not always possible to lower the structure. It could be resting on the base. It's much more likely that it can be raised. And yeah. Coming to the next step, I would say I would like to test this again when the pressor is adjusted and it's mounted. So let's give it a try. I'm wondering how this is actually getting fixed. Here we go. Okay. We have a few things to do here. So first one, we're going to fix these parts here to probably to the outside. The protruding part on the outside. Socket head screws. And 4x10 socket head screw, okay. Come on, we're almost at the first print. Yeah, I guess so. Good. So this is one side of the presser. Other side will attach to. And this is here to press down the roller surface so it's like perfectly flat. You can see it's a little bit bending up, just a tiny bit, and that's why we need this. Okay, reset the y-axis and position the presser immediately behind the extruder. That should be right here. Can you see that? Let me see if I can make it a little bit better. Okay, so here is this presser, and now we're going to adjust that. Reset the y-axis and position the presser immediately behind the extruder. So it's like really just down. So I would say yes, this looks okay. Press the presser down from the left side towards the belt and lock the tie rod screw. Be careful to leave the space between the tie rod and the extruder so it is possible to reset without impeding it. Align the presser transversally. Press the right side towards the flat and lock the tie rod screw. Yeah, I guess we need to, yeah, this means that we need to make sure that it's both, on both sides we have the same amount of pressure, so it's not unequally pressing it down. Right? So I guess I can fix that again. The display we hopefully don't have to remove anymore. So guys, do you have any questions that are left that you would like to ask? Because I think we're closing in on getting something done. Okay, so pressure on one side is carefully pushed down. So I'm just trying to insert the screws now just to get them in before we adjust it. Is there enough space left to reset? We should try. So let's reset and see if we have to move it. I'm curious. Okay. There's enough space. I would say there's enough room. So the question is just, is there enough pressure? Is it flat now? Is it moving? Looks good. We can move it a bit further towards the extruder. Just a tiny bit of space left here in between. Show it to you here so hopefully you can see that. Here we go. So I'm trying to bring this presser that this basically turns when you move the belt forward and backward, and that's pressing down here, and we're trying to move that as close to the backside of the extruder as we can. So if there's a tiny gap now, I'm trying to get it a bit closer. I think that's good. And if it's moving like to each side, it's not gonna touch it. Well, here maybe, yeah, I don't know, maybe we should leave this, at least this side, open. Same as here, so it doesn't like really run into it. I think that's good. That's good. Well, the tightening is challenging a bit, so we don't move it again. But that looks fine. Let's move it again. The roller, it's pushing. Yeah, that looks fine. That looks pretty fine. So from that perspective, I'd say we should try to zero the position of the nozzle, but because I think that is going to be the challenge now. It's still a bit too high, so I'm going to push the roller back just a tiny bit, bringing down the nozzle even a bit further, because I want to have a little bit more space here to do the leveling. So I'm bringing the nozzle down So the surface, and then it's probably, yeah, there we need a little bit more space for the roller. That needs a little bit more room now. Didn't think about that in the first place. So let's do this manually, just bringing down the nozzle. Okay. We need to bring it down even further. Now it's, this looks good. This is enough. Okay guys, I think we can say this is pretty much at the lowest position as possible, and still we don't hit this part. Good. Moves freely. Good. So we should probably tighten it a bit more so it really doesn't move. That's a good tip, Andrea. Okay, what's next? The wire spool holder. Yeah, that's also something that's left to do. So because we want to attach our filament spool, and that was originally vertical, and now it also needs to be 45 degrees using this bracket here. It's gonna angle it a bit. That's good. And we are awaiting the first 6 meter long Benchy print. Oh man, I can't tell you. This is exciting. If this really works, it's probably one of the most complicated but exciting builds I've ever done, and also from a timing perspective, or one of the longest builds I've ever done. Okay, so let's see. Idea is that it comes somewhere here. Yeah, so first fixing this one. Okay, which one is it? This one. Yeah, it should be on this side. Okay, guys. Good. So, coming in on the last remaining things, which is this part. I think I've actually nothing left to do. terms of hardware installation at least. I hope so. I hope it's not boring for you so far. Everyone's waiting for like this thing to start moving. And believe me, I'm as curious. I'm so curious if this is going to work. Okay. Let's finish this up. Okay, Andrea is asking something to show how stiff the top is with the system that I've adopted. Probably you mean this here, right? So it's like really not moving. And the brackets that are attached to the side of this thing are probably very helpful in that regard. And there's a question by Anja, does it have to be 45 degrees or could it be steeper to make the footprint smaller? Well, could it be steeper? I think you've seen Thomas Sanlader's video where he's like lowering this to like, I don't know, 22 degrees. But it's like, yeah, I mean from the perspective of the footprint, this is a bit wider than the Ender 3. It's not higher, so to say. Like because the Ender 3 is like, it's actually not much higher. Actually, it's a little bit higher, but it's not more. It's actually longer. Yeah, so this is definitely longer. But the overall footprint, yeah, it takes more space actually on the ground plate. It's not higher, if that is your concern. Okay, let's see if we can make this work. Here we go. Okay, last thing here, spool holder. Let me check if that works. Good. Spool holder is fixed, guys. It's fixed. Set the steps of the z-axis. The resolution of the z-axis belt is also a function of how much is stretched. Yeah, okay. You can use the G-code present in the SD supplied with the kit in the utility folder, as well as the Excel calculation sheet. Okay, so now we have another question here from Porphyrius. Could the motherboard be placed underneath the bed at all? That is, probably it could, but like there's not much room left here. So like my question would be, why would you want to do that? Because there's almost zero space left between like the bottom, so the table, and the steel roller here, so this metal sheet. So how would you then do the cooling, right? there's no air opening here to have some cooling. Probably what you could do maybe is to make it a vertical case somewhere here in the front. So to put it a little bit more to the front side, and then to make it vertical, or to have it, yeah, maybe at somewhere here behind, maybe behind the power supply. On the side where the power supply is, if you do the electronics on that side, the printer would be a tiny bit more narrower, but that's not much. That you're winning maybe like 5 centimeters and not more. Yeah, that's things that you could do probably. I think there's all kinds of upgrade possibilities. So let me check what's next in the manual, because that's quite important to understand what we need to do now. Steps of the Z-axis. I think that is like how much does the belt move with a given amount of millimeters. Yeah. So let's check that file. So there's a file that we could check which comes with the printer. Let me see, this is in which folder? In the firmware probably. Here we go. That's why it's good to look in these files that are coming with the printer. So as a config sample file, these are all the things that have changed. And here we go. Axis per unit. And yeah, since I've used the configuration file, or I've used the firmware from Andrea, I guess what we can double check now if these settings are actually in the firmware. If these numbers are already set up. Okay, so let's see, configuration, advanced settings. Where is it? Control motion. Here we go, steps. The menu is a little bit different. That is one thing in the firmware, just double checking what values are currently set. It seems that these are in the firmware. So from a firmware perspective, these settings are already baked into the firmware, it seems. And then we can also check in the utility folder. Okay, Andrea, which one do you want me to look at? PASI Z200G code, I guess. This is a file that's coming with the printer. What is in that file? Okay, it's moving belt by 200 millimeters. Moving belt to 0, move to 200, move. Okay. Okay, this is moving the belt, and we can execute that to have the belt moving. This is like watching paint dry. Yeah, I know. It takes patience. Guys, I never did this before. So we need to check if the belt is actually moving in the amount of steps required to move it by a certain amount of millimeters. So let's just have a look. Okay, so what I've done, I've copied this G-code file through the SD card again. And we'll try to run it now. The paint drying stream had 3.5k watching now. This is probably another stream, not this one here. Okay, good. Yeah, there is another calculation sheet that we'll also use to calculate steps. Let's open that. Well, that's actually not in English, but I guess it's just a simple calculation. That's the actual passing. This is the desired. Yeah. So let's run this and let's see what happens. And I think we'll simply what I usually do with these things is I'm marking, adding a little marking at the side. Let's run it. Okay, it's moving. And you can't see it. Why? Why is it not focusing on mine? This is not good. So you can probably barely see it, but it's now moving the belt. And I think it's supposed to move by 20 centimeters, something like that. And it's moving back. Let me double check the G-code. What is it actually doing? Emits a beep, move to 0, move to 0. Okay, so the belt is moving back and forth. probably doing the calibration. This is probably a bit boring, I admit, but we want to make sure that it's this belt system, which is not calibrated yet, at least from my point of view, it's not calibrated. It should move like by the desired amount. So when is it, like when it's going to be at 20? It should be right here, right? But that looks quite perfect to me. Yeah. Yeah. I marked the belt here, so I did a little like marking that is going over the belt and over the hotbed. So it looks good from that perspective. Now this marking here, you can't see it right now, but this marking is going back to the original point where I did the first one, which is here. And then I measured the distance here, which is like 20 centimeters, which is good. So it's actually moving like what is expected from it. And if it's not, then you can calculate like by taking the current steps, and then it's going back and forth now. I think we can stop. Looks good for me. Okay, so that is fine. I think that was quite perfect, looking like 20 centimeters quite perfectly. So what's left to do is probably printing something. Okay, so what we should do now, so let me briefly tell you what I'm going to do right now. I'll insert some filament and we'll take some test cube, very simple object, and print that. Unless there is something that was on the SD card. I don't know if there is some file that's printable, probably not. Let me double check. Okay, let's go to Cura. I'll risk it because I don't have Simplify. I had some issues getting that because all the ordering didn't work today for some reason, but we'll try it. Steel, there's some example. Okay, thanks for mentioning that. So we don't have to slice something because I wanted to get something out of the printer right now. Good. Okay, let's copy that file to the SD card. Example. What is phalangia? I have no idea what that is. To be honest, we are printing something that is like not, I don't know what it's going to be, to be honest. I don't know. Phalangia. What is phalangia? Let me check that. Okay, okay, it seems to be some kind of tube. Okay, maybe it's a tube. So let's print a tube. Let's just do it. Okay. So let's see if we can get some good view on this. So we can see what's happening here. Okay, let's load in some filaments. So I'm heating up now, getting the filament in. Okay, temperature is coming. Yeah, I know it's super noisy. That is the problem. Set offset. We can double check the set offset in a bit. Yeah, thing is that this printer menu doesn't have, for some reason there isn't, we need to double check if we can set the Z offset later, so we need to do some baby stepping. I need a new fan, yeah. Okay, let's get the old filament out. Okay, this is good. Purple coming out, and let's run the print. Print. Tune menu, baby stepping. So first thing to check if we need to do that. As soon as it starts printing. Paul had a question. Which was it? Daniel, were you able to find out if the roller could print higher temps, and if so, does the roller speed affect the surface temperature, and how do you then achieve bed adhesion for different materials? One thing, talking about bed adhesion, I totally forgot to clean the surface because I've touched it so many times now. I'm just going to clean it for a bit. Because it's like probably, there's so many fingerprints on here now. Let's briefly put some alcohol here also on the part that's coming. That's rolling forward. Totally forget about that. So we want to get some good adhesion. Okay, what's happening? Let's see. Is it doing something? Oozing a bit. Okay, so it's doing some test here and something's happening. Okay, probably need to go. For some reason, baby stepping doesn't work. I don't know why. Do we have some space to go down? Actually, we would have some room to go down, and baby stepping isn't doing anything. Why is it not doing anything? It's not moving the print head. Strange. But it's printing something. Let's see. I think I can't zoom any further, can I? So coming back to the question of Paul, higher temperatures. I think that's a question for Andrea. The question is probably if the bat can go to higher temperatures. So that is a good question. It's now 50 degrees Celsius, so probably it will be able to go higher. The thing is that this is still the original nozzle setup, so like the temperature is limited by that as well, right? So probably you mean the bed temperature, but it's also the hot end temperature is limited, right? So it's printing something. It looks something is actually happening here. Nice. So from the top, there's not much to see here. Everything is covered by the spool, so let's not use this. Yeah. So it's printing. So I'm really curious what it is actually happening. What is this printing? It seems to be something that is probably a little bit longer. So let's stay on that camera. And let's try to get it a little bit closer to camera. So we see a little bit more of what's actually happening. So let me do that. It's not really focused on the point. Better now. Okay, so I see some. Probably I shouldn't have moved this while it's printing. Something is happening. Okay, and it detached. Detaching from the belt. Okay, so I would say, not yet successful. We'll stop the print here. That part did come loose. I mean, I see what this should mean. What's happening here? Okay. Okay, so the part came loose. Sorry for that. Maybe belt too cold. Maybe we should clean it a bit more. Let's double check. Maybe it's also still, it needs a little bit more pressure. So what I will do, I will just bring the zero position down a tiny bit. So it's, and there wasn't any baby stepping. I mean, the menu is there, but baby stepping didn't work for some reason. I couldn't actually change that during the print. I have no idea why. Let's just try again and run this one more time. And I want to see if the first layer is actually getting down better. Because that was already not very firmly attached. And then we can also bring the temperature of the bed a little bit up. It's pretty cold here in this room. Unfortunately, I don't have. Blue tape can also work. I think we talked about that. The Kapton tape should actually work on its own. But yeah, it could also be that we need a bit more temperature. And also some... I'm wondering why the Z adjustment didn't work. Like why the tune menu has a baby stepping function, but that does nothing. Actually raising the temperature also of the nozzle, because I'm usually not printing at 205, I'm printing at 215. So let's see if that changes for the better. Yeah, Andrea, I get it. The set offset, for whatever reason, normally in the menu of the printer there should be some set offset menu item where you can set the set offset, and that isn't there. You start the print and then press and hold the button for 2-3 seconds. Okay, maybe that is something that is new. Press the button for 2 to 3 seconds, really? Start a print and press and hold the button for 2 to 3 seconds. Baby steps get enabled and you can adjust. Do you mean pressing the button in the... I'm pressing the button, but it's just hopping between the menus, like back and forth, back and forth. It's strange. It's just hopping, like it's just going out of the baby step menu, in the baby step menu, out, in, out, in, out. It's not really staying, and it's not, nothing is happening. Yeah, it's printing now. And if I keep on the button, it's just like doing nothing. Super strange. I remember that. Actually, you are right. It's definitely something that should, like when you go into that menu and you hold the button down, it should enable baby stepping, but it is not working. So probably need to compile my own firmware now. But anyways, I would anyways do that probably. Yeah, probably Andrea is giving the right hint here. There's in the tool that he's delivering, we can also adjust that. But I would actually say that baby stepping is something that we should have in the menu enabled, so we can like on the fly maybe change the distance to be more pressing down. I think it's actually better. It looks like the tiny adjustment I did to the switch already put it a bit more down on the bed, just about a very tiny amount, and it's now, the adhesion is much better. So let's let it printing. So great stuff. So what I'm I hope that was a beer. Nah, it was a Red Bull. Or it would have been coffee otherwise. So I'm just adjusting, making some adjustments here. Good. So let me see. Oh, we are doing good, I guess. I'm just adding another hotkey for my Stream Deck here. Okay. Yeah, so it's now doing its thing. Adhesion seems to be good. So still going. Beer. If I would be drinking beer right now, I would be like going to bed in 5 minutes or so. I don't... Anything that is with beer... I mean, I like beer, but it's like, it's making me tired like almost immediately. So no beer if I have to work. And this is work, right? It's like I have to be awake. But it's looking good. It looks much better than the first try. So I think it was a combination of probably the temperature and a little bit more pressure. Okay. I actually didn't believe that we would be printing tonight, but like maybe I was too pessimistic. We didn't have to do much. Honestly, it wasn't actually not as much left as I was thinking. The difficult thing is probably now to get the slicer working, to get something through the slicer and then through the software that converts it to 45 degrees. I will prepare that in the meanwhile while you are looking at this thing printing. So I'm trying to, I will in parallel get this set up, a new printer. And so we can get started. Steel roller 45. Actually, what I did lately, you probably have seen my Q5 review, and there was no Cura profile for the Q5 for whatever reason. So I've just I did a pull request in the GitHub repository of Cura, adding my Q5 profile. So I can just add the printer in Cura by going to the Add New Printer menu, and it was just accepted like a day later. So they said, yeah, thanks for the profile. Probably in the new version, not in 4.9. I double checked, it's not there, but it's probably in the next version. So pretty easy actually to add a Cura profile. So maybe we should add a Cura profile for this printer and see if they accept that, if they put it into the main branch. So width of the printer, actually how wide is the belt? I think it's 200, right? Yeah, it's 200. That was the Captain tape was 200. So it's 200. The Y, I have no idea what should I enter in the Y. Infinite? Does Cura support infinite Y depth? Converted like how? Second question, I mirrored from Discord. How is Cura or Slicer, even say Octoprint, be converted to do this? That is actually something that Andrea can probably answer better. I think converted means that it would calculate like a G code, but maybe Andrea, you can take the question. How is like how? Can you simply say? Can you simply describe what is actually happening when you change for 45 degrees? I would be interested. What is the Z height? Maybe let's go for 150. And it's printing. It's still going, and it's not detaching, which is really nice. I would actually have a question to Andrea as well. I'm putting it in the chat. How would you, for example, how would I start using Cura Black Belt? Because I'm curious. Let's say I would want to use that, and can I just use your start G code, or do I not need that? Is it actually not needed? I'm just curious if I can if I have the black belt software now. Can I just get going and just start printing? I would be really interested to know that. So let's run it anyways. Okay. So what I'm doing in parallel, I'm installing another slicer software, so we can try a few things. And if we can try that today, I will try it until we see each other next time. So I will try different slicers, and maybe at some point in the near future, I want to do a little bit of a review of this printer. So I'm going to talk about it in a more concise way, do it a little bit from different angles and say what was the build like, and all the questions that we had, trying to pack that into a little bit more short video, maybe 10 minutes. And then we can also talk about slicers and then have a deeper look into how to actually use this printer in a video, because I think it makes sense to put some time into it, figure out what works. Andrea is probably also interested in testing out different things and then trying out modifications. I would be actually interested if it would be possible to attach something like a probe. Now I can imagine that since this is a steel system, a beetle touch wouldn't be actually needed. Probably something like an inductive probe would be much easier and hassle-free, so to say. And if we could have an inductive probe, would be awesome. I think it's from technical point of view, that is not an issue, and it would make Like something like bed leveling, much easier. Maybe something, maybe you could also like have some kind of compensation for different, like different heights of the print bed. This shouldn't be, from a technical point of view, this should be possible, right? If Marlin can compensate for that, then we should be able to use it. Yeah, Andrea, that's like, I see. You didn't test that. It's not an issue. I would just say it would be interesting to test other slicers and see if they still work. And see, like, it would be super awesome if we had, if in the end, for the product, I think since Simplify 3D is like not for free, some people will say, hey, why can't I just use a free software? And if we have like at least one software, let's say Cure Black Belt, and make a profile for that so it works 100% and it's like tested, would be awesome. I think we don't have to go and like do all the slicers, but at least the ones that are designed for 45 degrees, if they could work, I think that would be super good. Definitely, I will look into that. So, I'm just looking at Black Belt Cura, and it supports custom belt style printers, which is awesome. Just gonna show that to you in a second. So let's see. So here we go. This is actually nice. So it supports custom belt style printer, and then we can just add our printer here. Steel roller 45. This is really nice. So I guess we can do it. Shouldn't be a huge thing. Okay, custom printer setup, 150. Andrea, what is the actual usable height of the printer now? Do you know that? I will just go and use your custom G code. Still going. Okay, let's stop. Okay, home access. Start. Let's just use the code that is in the documentation. Okay. Finish. So this is how it looks like. That is crazy. That looks insane. Oh my god. This is how Cura Bell looks like. Isn't that great? This looks awesome. Your configuration is not using the recommended start and end G code scripts. Do you want to reset the start to the defaults? No, I'm using my custom scripts. This is so crazy. This is so crazy. Guys, this is like insane. Infinite length of belt. Okay, I'm so curious to try it. I'm so curious. Let's place a benchy on that. Let's put a benchy there. Trying to... Oh man, let's have some thingiverse. Or maybe let's do something quicker, like chap calibration cube. Okay. I'm just curious, can I say PLA custom setup? Let's do all these things. Manage show all settings, material 215. Oh, it doesn't support belt temperature. I don't know. Does the belt system, does the black belt not have a belt temperature? Not sure. Maybe we need to add it into the start G code. Okay, I'm gonna figure that out. So we're still going, printer is still running. And it's like, it's looking good. It's not detaching. Okay, I'm just trying to figure out what else can I set here. 60 millimeters travel, cooling. I'm not changing a lot of stuff. No support. Mesh special, no, nothing. I mean, actually, I don't want to change a lot of things. Black belt, print, raft, just belt wall, gantry angle, layer height 0.2. 1.2 millimeter shell. Infill 20 is good. Yeah, the only thing that is... So the question is, how can I set the temperature of the belt? But it's probably something that I have to do manually, because it's not set in the software for some reason. But I mean, we can do it. Okay, you know... What is the hot end being used? Yeah, the hot end that is currently being used is still the original hot end of the Ender 3 Pro. So it's not changed. The whole, like, it's just, this part is different now. It's a 90-degree angle, and that is like just making sure that the nozzle is parallel, or like the tip of the nozzle is basically running parallel to the heat bed. But besides that, it's the stock Ender 3 Pro. I didn't change anything. I didn't upgrade anything on this printer. It's stock. It has the 427 mainboard. That is the only thing that I changed like a few weeks ago to make my Ender 3 Pro 32-bit. But besides that, it's the stock printer. So it works good. You could probably upgrade the hot end to something better. But from now on, from this point of view, it looks like it's working fine. Is thermal runaway detection enabled on the firmware? I would say, I would guess that this should be the default. So I hope so. Nice. So, curious about how this part is looking in the end. But you see, I mean, it's working. It's probably something that longer it gets. I think we have 1/3 of the thing printed now. (200 by 100 by endless). Okay, I'm probably gonna set this up. Edit my printer settings. Okay, so height of the printer is now 180. And I'm curious how it would, if I would duplicate this model now, multiply by 2. That's the only thing that I don't understand with the setup here. If I need to place the things on the belt myself now, or if it does it for me. Because I just multiplied this and it crashed. So seems that it's not very stable. Anyways, I'll figure it out. Yeah, that's it about this printer, I would say. Still going. And in the meanwhile, I was trying to get Cura Black Belt working. I think I got it working to some point. There's another question here coming in. Paul has a question. I wonder how my Hemera etc. neolite filament around it, if that would be too much weight at 45 degrees. I think not. I would say the Hemera is maybe a little bit overkill, but something like the ByQH2, which is a little smaller, could work. That's maybe worth a try. Would probably need adjustments for the holder here, so we probably need an adapter plate for that. I would like filament runout is definitely something that is not an issue. I would say a probe would be interesting to see if a probe will work, so we could have some like distance calibration, something like mesh bed leveling for just the x-axis. That would be super awesome, like if we could have that automated bed leveling for the x-axis. Like it's then not going around in a circle, right? Or it's not doing a mesh, actually it's just doing a few points on a line. That would be super awesome if that would work. Okay, I'm back in Cura Black Belt now. Wondering how can I print multiple things? There's another question here. Is an extra wide printing option, say for those that have extended doubled each of their 3 and the 3 Pro axes? Andrea, I guess there is a version available for the CR10. So there is a bigger version of this, right? Maybe you can answer that if you're still here, I don't know. I see, at least on his website, I will put the website up for you, robotfactory IT. This is the link. So I posted a link in the chat. So there is on his website, there is different versions. And there is also a bigger version available. As far as I see it, there's also one for CR10. How large that exactly is in terms of the printing width, I don't know, but there is a larger one. So we are printing on the Steel Roller 45. I think it's going since half an hour. If some people are coming in late, we've converted an Ender 3 Pro with the steel roller 45 kit from Robot Factory to a 45-degree belt printer. We're just in the last section of the build, and we're printing the test print from the SD card. So just to see if anything is, if it's working, and it seems so. And in the meanwhile, I was just trying to figure if I can make black belt Cura work to do some other test prints in the future. And here, Chris, does PT stick to Captain? I have a big project coming, air handling in motor cavity. I didn't test it yet, so I'm also curious what materials will work. But it's definitely, it's a steel surface. This is a steel surface, and there is Captain tape on top, and it comes on a roll. It's looking like this. So this is like how I got it. I got it from a company in the Czech Republic, but it's also available on Amazon. This is a 30-meter Captain tape, 20 centimeter wide. You actually need 2 people to apply it because it's too hard to do it yourself. So one person needs to like stretch it and then slowly get it down while you have some soap water on the surface, and then the second person needs to make sure that the belt doesn't move and all the stuff. And it's just easier with 2 people, believe me. Okay. Well, this is still going like probably for the next half hour. And I would say, since this is going good and nothing big is going to change, I would say we'll talk about this printer in a while when I've done some more testing, also trying out different slicer programs. Black Belt, Cura, and what was the other one? Creality Belt. So these are the 2 that come to my mind because they are like basically free software and should be working with a 45-degree printer. Probably I will go and just create a profile for the Black Belt software and see if I can make it work. And then also figuring like how to do mass production. Can you hear me? Let me see. Can you hear me? Yeah. You should be able to hear me, right? Can you still hear me? Okay, yeah. So, good. I was just saying, yeah, I'm just curious what slicer software I can make this work with, but I'd say it makes sense to use the free software. I Simplify 3D that Andrea is using for his conversion software. It probably works. I don't have it. I don't have a license yet. And it's like $150. So like for someone who is buying the kit, another $150. Maybe that's pushing you off. So I would say we can make it work with Cura Black Belt or the belt printing software, the Creality belts, and it's probably more feasible. And let's see, do we have more questions? Or should we should we have a look at Cura Black Belt again? I would say let's look over. And because if I'm preparing now, I've just put a simple chap cube here on the surface. I have no idea if I can if I have to do the multiplication myself. So let's say I wanna multiply this but one time. Would probably have to shift it myself to like to the back, right? So it's printed here. And probably I would have to do that myself for all the other parts. So let's say we want to have a third one. Probably have to put it myself in a row. Which is, I mean, it's okay for me because like if I would just do a small batch, that would be okay. If you scroll up, it's the way to add a quantity. I don't know if there is a quantity on here. Adjust belt. I'm also curious, isn't there a simple way to say, let's print this 200 times or so? Like amount or whatever. Or replication or whatever. I have no idea. I didn't use the software before. Stretch one. Yeah, maybe this is actually a good idea. Not uniform scaling. Let's stretch one by 1000%. And let's move that. Yeah, we can try that. This looks good, but this looks still insane. This, this is just crazy. This is from... Isn't that crazy? Did you ever see this? Yeah, Wayne says in the Creality belt there is a quantity, I believe. Probably we should... that's what I mean. I will try this software, the Black Belt Cure, and also the Creality belt. Because they are both free programs, so it makes sense to check out if one of those, like which one is the better one for this printer. I have no preference there, so I would say I will take what works. And this is still going quite well, so I would say I will definitely close for today, because I think we're not going to see much more. Just going to take time, as everything that has to do with 3D printing, most things you're just waiting for stuff to finish. I'm really happy that we finished to build the printer tonight, that it works, and it's actually printing, and it's printing quite well. And you will see me testing out this printer for the next few weeks. So I will post stuff on Instagram. So if you want to get updates, like some test prints that I'm doing, just check out my Instagram account, Daniel Crosslink. I post some stuff there. And I guess in a few weeks I will do an update video, how I changed up things, maybe what printer, what slicer I'm using, profiles that I've generated, so things that I've tested out together with Andrea, because we agreed that we'll try to test out different slicer programs. Probably also going to look into an inductive probe setup and some mesh bed leveling if it's required. I mean, maybe it's overkill. And then, but with that, I want to thank you for coming and joining the stream. And I see you in the next one. Next video coming up is going to be a little bit of a mixture of a review, first look, and how to get started with 3D printing video. I'm not sure what I would call it today. I will figure out. I'm just figuring out the title, but we're working on it. It's a little video. It's like just something that we put together because we wanted to like experiment with different pacing, different style. So I hope you like that video. It's coming next week. And yeah, I'll see you in the next one every time. I'm happy to have you on the stream, everyone. And yeah, it's time for a beer, but I'm still finishing my Red Bull. And we'll do this more often, definitely. I think it's great to have you all here. I'm not sure if I can do this weekly, I would like to do it weekly, actually. I would like to have a weekly stream going. But I can imagine that like we won't do builds every week. Yeah, maybe every other week or so. I definitely want to invite some more people. So like Andrea last time, I want to invite some creators. The idea is like if you have been in the, I think it was in the last stream, there was, I was a guest in the 3D Print 2 God channel, which is a Portuguese YouTube channel. What they do every week is they invite like people like you and me, creators, makers, people who have 3D printers who are doing great stuff with their printers. There was an awesome 3D prints that they have shown in the stream, and they also have some skills with like painting the stuff, right? There are so many people who have really awesome skills of airbrushing, right? So if we can invite a little more from that regard, people like who are using this hobby and who want to show their stuff, what they are actually doing, and maybe like awesome art they are creating, then I would be happy to do that. So I'll see you in the next one. A long ending for the stream. Bye bye. Have a nice weekend.